Welcome to Growth Mindset Success, where your journey to personal excellence begins. Here, we unlock powerful ideas and timeless wisdom from the world's most influential books on success, mindset, and motivation. In a fast-paced world, you need guidance that inspires and equips you to act, improve, and rise. That's what we deliver. No fluff, just value. Whether you're an entrepreneur, dreamer, or seeker of clarity and purpose, you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and get ready to grow. If you find value, don't forget to subscribe for weekly book summaries that unlock your full potential. Let's dive in. Introduction. Napoleon Hill's Law of Success is one of the foundational works in the field of personal development and achievement. Written in the early 20th century, it presents a comprehensive philosophy of success based on Hill's interviews with highly accomplished leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries of his time. The book introduces a series of principles including definiteness of purpose, self-confidence, initiative, leadership, imagination, and concentration that serve as a blueprint for building wealth, influence, and personal fulfillment. This first part of the explanation covers the early principles and sets the stage for understanding Hill's system of achievement. The Law of Success in 16 lessons, teaching for the first time in history the true philosophy upon which all personal success is built, was written by Napoleon Hill in 1928 and published by the Ralston University Press, Meriden, Connecticut, with copyright held by the author. In the general introduction to this course, Hill dedicates the work to Andrew Carnegie, who first suggested the writing of the lessons, to Henry Ford, whose remarkable achievements provided the foundation for nearly all 16 lessons, and to Edwin C. Barnes, a close associate of Thomas A. Edison, whose friendship over 15 years helped Hill persevere through many adversities and temporary defeats while organizing the course. As Hill boldly reminds the reader, who said it could not be done? And what great victories has he to his credit, which qualify him to judge others accurately? This leads into his personal statement as the author, setting the stage for one of the most influential works on success ever written. Some 30 years ago, a young clergyman by the name of Gonzales announced in the newspapers of Chicago that he would preach a sermon the following Sunday morning entitled, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million." The announcement caught the eye of Philip D. Armour, the wealthy packing house king, who decided to hear the sermon. In his sermon, Dr. Gonzales pictured a great school of technology where young men and young women could be taught how to succeed in life by developing the ability to think in practical rather than in theoretical terms, where they would be taught to learn by doing. "If I had $1 million," said the young preacher, "I would start such a school." After the sermon was over, Mr. Armour walked down the aisle to the pulpit, introduced himself, and said, "Young man, I believe you could do all you said you could, and if you will come down to my office tomorrow morning, I will give you the $1 million you need." There is always plenty of capital for those who can create practical plans for using it. That was the beginning of the Armour Institute of Technology, one of the very practical schools of the country. The school was born in the imagination of a young man who never would have been heard of outside of the community in which he preached had it not been for the imagination, plus the capital, of Philip D. Armour. Every great railroad, every outstanding financial institution, every mammoth business enterprise, and every great invention began in the imagination of some one person. F.W. Woolworth created the 5 and 10 cent store plan in his imagination before it became a reality and made him a multimillionaire. Thomas A. Edison created the talking machine, the moving picture machine, the incandescent electric light bulb, and scores of other useful inventions in his imagination before they became a reality. During the Chicago fire, scores of merchants whose stores went up in smoke stood near the smoldering embers of their former places of business, grieving over their loss. Many of them decided to go away into other cities and start over again. In the group was Marshall Field, who saw in his own imagination the world's greatest retail store standing on the selfsame spot where his former store had stood, which was then but a ruined mass of smoking timbers. That store became a reality. Fortunate is the young man or young woman who learns, early in life, to use imagination, and doubly so in this age of greater opportunity. Imagination is a faculty of the mind which can be cultivated, developed, extended, and broadened by use. If this were not true, this course on the 16 Laws of Success never would have been created, because it was first conceived in the author's imagination, from the mere seed of an idea which was sown by a chance remark of the late Andrew Carnegie. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you may be following as an occupation, there is room for you to make yourself more useful, and in that manner more productive, by developing and using your imagination. Success in this world is always a matter of individual effort, yet you will only be deceiving yourself if you believe that you can succeed without the cooperation of other people. Success is a matter of individual effort only to the extent that each person must decide, in his or her own mind, what is wanted. This involves the use of imagination. From this point on, achieving success is a matter of skillfully and tactfully inducing others to cooperate. Before you can secure cooperation from others, nay, before you have the right to ask for or expect cooperation from other people, you must first show a willingness to cooperate with them. For this reason, the 8th lesson of this course, the habit of doing more than paid for, is one which should have your serious and thoughtful attention. The law upon which this lesson is based would, of itself, practically ensure success to all who practice it in everything they do. In the back pages of this introduction, you will observe a personal analysis chart in which 10 well-known men have been analyzed for your study and comparison. Observe this chart carefully and note the danger points which mean failure to those who do not observe these signals. Of the 10 men analyzed, 8 are known to be successful, while 2 may be considered failures. Study carefully the reason why these 2 men failed. Then study yourself. In the 2 columns which have been left blank for that purpose, give yourself a rating on each of the 15 laws of success at the beginning of this course. At the end of the course, rate yourself again and observe the improvements you have made. The purpose of the Law of Success course is to enable you to find out how you may become more capable in your chosen field of work. To this end, you will be analyzed and all of your qualities classified, so you may organize them and make the best possible use of them. You may not like the work in which you are now engaged. There are 2 ways of getting out of that work. One way is to take but little interest in what you are doing, aiming merely to do enough to get by. Very soon you will find a way out, because the demand for your services will cease. The other and better way is by making yourself so useful and efficient in what you are now doing that you will attract the favorable attention of those who have the power to promote you into more responsible work that is more to your liking. It is your privilege to take your choice as to which way you will proceed. Again, you are reminded of the importance of Lesson 9 of this course, through the aid of which you may avail yourself of this better way of promoting yourself. Thousands of people walked over the great Calumet copper mine without discovering it. Just one lone man used his imagination, dug down into the earth a few feet, investigated, and discovered the richest copper deposit on earth. You and every other person walk, at one time or another, over your own Calumet mine. Discovery is a matter of investigation and use of imagination. This course on the 15 Laws of Success may lead the way to your Calumet, and you may be surprised when you discover that you were standing right over this rich mine in the very work in which you are now engaged. In his lecture on Acres of Diamonds, Russell Conwell tells us that we need not seek opportunity in the distance, that we may find it right where we stand. This is a truth well worth remembering. Napoleon Hill, author of The Law of Success. The author's acknowledgement of help rendered him in the writing of this course. This course is the result of careful analysis of the life work of over 100 men and women who have achieved unusual success in their respective callings. The author of the course has spent more than 20 years gathering, classifying, testing, and organizing the 15 laws upon which the course is based. In his labor, he has received valuable assistance, either in person or by studying the life work of the following men: Henry Ford, Edward Bach, Thomas A. Edison, Cyrus H. K. Curtis, Harvey S. Firestone, George W. Perkins, John D. Rockefeller, Henry L. Doherty, Charles M. Schwab, George S. Parker, Woodrow Wilson, Dr. C. O. Henry, Darwin P. Kingsley, General Rufus A. Ayers, William Wrigley Jr., Judge Elbert H. Gary, A. D. Lasker, William Howard Taft, E. A. Filene, Dr. Elmer Gates, James J. Hill, and John W. Davis. Others include Captain George M. Alexander, to whom the author was formerly an assistant, Samuel Insull, Judge Daniel T. Wright, one of the author's law instructors, Hugh Chalmers, Dr. E. W. Strickler, Elbert Hubbard, Edwin C. Barnes, Luther Burbank, Robert L. Taylor, Fiddling Bob, O. H. Harriman, John Burroughs, George Eastman, E. H. Harriman, E. M. Stapler, Charles P. Steinmetz, Andrew Carnegie, Frank Vanderlip, John Wanamaker, Theodore Roosevelt, Marshall Field, William A. French, and Dr. Alexander Graham Bell, to whom the author owes credit for most of Lesson 1. Of the men named, perhaps Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie should be acknowledged as having contributed most toward the building of this course. This is because it was Andrew Carnegie who first suggested the writing of the course, and Henry Ford, whose life work supplied much of the material out of which the course was developed. Some of these men are now deceased, but to those who are still living, the author wishes to make here a grateful acknowledgement of the service they have rendered, without which this course never could have been written. The author has studied the majority of these men at close range, in person. With many of them he enjoyed, or did enjoy before their death, the privilege of close personal friendship, which enabled him to gather from their philosophy facts that would not have been available under other conditions. The author is grateful for having enjoyed the privilege of enlisting the services of the most powerful men on earth in the building of the Law of Success course. That privilege has been remuneration enough for the work done, if nothing more were ever received for it. These men have been the backbone, the foundation, and the skeleton of American business, finance, industry, and statesmanship. The Law of Success course epitomizes the philosophy and the rules of procedure which made each of these men a great power in his chosen field of endeavor. It has been the author's intention to present the course in the plainest and most simple terms available, so it could be mastered even by very young men and women of high school age. With the exception of the psychological law referred to in Lesson 1 as the mastermind, the author lays no claim to having created anything basically new in this course. What he has done, however, is to organize old truths and known laws into practical, usable form, where they may be properly interpreted and applied by the workaday man whose needs call for a philosophy of simplicity. In passing upon the merits of the Law of Success, Judge Elbert H. Gary said, "Two outstanding features connected with the philosophy impress me most. One is the simplicity with which it has been presented, and the other is the fact that its soundness is so obvious to all that it will be immediately accepted. The student of this course is warned against passing judgment upon it before having read the entire 16 lessons. This especially applies to this introduction, in which it has been necessary to include brief reference to subjects of a more or less technical and scientific nature. The reason for this will be obvious after the student has read the entire 16 lessons. The student who takes up this course with an open mind and sees to it that his or her mind remains open until the last lesson has been read will be richly rewarded with a broader and more accurate view of life as a whole. The contents of this introductory lesson include power, what it is and how to create and use it; cooperation, the psychology of cooperative effort and how to use it constructively; the mastermind, how it is created through harmony of purpose and effort between two or more people, Henry Ford, Thomas A. Edison, and Harvey S. Firestone; the secret of their power and wealth; the Big Six, how they made the law of the mastermind yield them a profit of more than $25 million a year; imagination, how to stimulate it so that it will create practical plans and new ideas. Telepathy, how thought passes from one mind to another through the ether, every brain being both a broadcasting and a receiving station for thought. How salesmen and public speakers sense or tune in on the thoughts of their audiences. Vibration, as described by Dr. Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the long-distance telephone, air and ether, how they carry vibrations, how and why ideas flash into the mind from unknown sources, the history of the law of success philosophy, covering a period of over 25 years of scientific research and experimentation. Judge Elbert H. Carey reading, approving, and adopting the Law of Success course, and Andrew Carnegie, responsible for the beginning of the Law of Success course. The contents of this introductory lesson continue with Law of Success training, how it helped a group of salespeople earn $1 million. So-called spiritualism explained, organized effort, the source of all power, how to analyze yourself, how a small fortune was made from an old, worked-out, seemingly worthless farm. There is a gold mine in your present occupation if you will follow directions and dig for it. There is plenty of ready capital for the development of any practical idea or plan you may create. Some reasons why people fail, why Henry Ford is the most powerful man on earth, and how others may use the same principles which give him his power. The lesson also examines why some people antagonize others without knowing it. It considers the effect of sexual contact as both a mind stimulant and a health builder. It explains what happens in the religious event known as the revival. It discusses what we have learned from nature's Bible. It explores the chemistry of the mind and how it can either make or destroy you. You will learn what is meant by the psychological moment in salesmanship, how the mind becomes devitalized, and how to recharge it. The value and meaning of harmony in all cooperative effort are shown to be essential for success. The question is also answered: of what do Henry Ford's assets consist? This provides a deeper understanding of what truly makes for enduring wealth and power. Finally, this lesson emphasizes that this is the age of mergers and highly organized cooperative effort. It is shown that Woodrow Wilson had in mind the law of the mastermind in his plan for a League of Nations. Success is revealed as largely a matter of tactful negotiation with other people. Every human being possesses at least two distinct personalities, one destructive and one constructive. Education is explained as generally misunderstood to mean instruction or the memorizing of rules, when in truth it means the development of the human mind from within, through unfolding and active use. The contents of this introductory section conclude with two methods of gathering knowledge: through personal experience and by assimilating the knowledge gained through the experience of others. A personal analysis is given of Henry Ford, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Napoleon Bonaparte, Calvin Coolidge, and Jesse James. The author also provides his after-the-lesson visit, which is designed to help students apply the principles in a practical way. Time is a master worker that heals the wounds of temporary defeat, equalizes inequalities, and rights the wrongs of the world. There is nothing impossible with time. The Law of Success, Lesson 1. The Mastermind. You can do it if you believe you can. This is a course on the fundamentals of success. Success is very largely a matter of adjusting oneself to the ever-varying and changing environments of life in a spirit of harmony and poise. Harmony is based upon understanding the forces constituting one's environment. Therefore, this course is in reality a blueprint that may be followed straight to success, because it helps the student to interpret, understand, and make the most of these environmental forces of life. Before beginning the Law of Success lessons, the student should know something of the history of the course. It is important to understand exactly what the course promises to those who follow it until they have assimilated the laws and principles upon which it is based. One should also know its limitations as well as its possibilities as an aid in the struggle for a place in the world. From the viewpoint of entertainment, the Law of Success course would rank a poor second to most of the monthly periodicals of this snappy story variety found on newsstands today. This course has been created for the serious-minded person who devotes at least a portion of his or her time to the business of succeeding in life. The author has not intended to compete with those who write purely for the purpose of entertainment, but rather has aimed at a twofold purpose. First, to help the earnest student discover his or her weaknesses, and second, to help create a definite plan for bridging those weaknesses. The most successful men and women on earth have had to correct certain weak spots in their personalities before they began to succeed. The most outstanding of these weaknesses, which stand between men and women and success, are intolerance, cupidity, greed, jealousy, suspicion, revenge, egotism, conceit, the tendency to reap where they have not sown, and the habit of spending more than they earn. All of these common enemies of mankind, and many more not here mentioned, are covered by the Law of Success course in such a manner that any person of reasonable intelligence may master them with but little effort or inconvenience. From the very outset, it should be understood that the Law of Success course has long since passed through the experimental state, that it already has to its credit a record of achievement that is worthy of serious thought and analysis. The course has been examined and endorsed by some of the most practical minds of this generation. It was first used as a lecture and delivered